Good evening and welcome to the Friday night studentloanjustice.org live stream. Folks, I'm going to get right into it. Things are going really fast. We are back here in Wisconsin now, thanks to everybody who stepped up to allow us to go to Cleveland for the debates. Hopefully some good things will come out of that. We did do quite a few interviews with media, etc., etc. But folks, I almost don't know where to begin. So on the one hand, the petition is doing very well. We've got like 717,000 signatures on it right now. We are trying very, very hard to get that up to 1 million as quickly as possible. And by the way, for those of you who are new, welcome. We're glad you found us. We are the oldest, largest, and pretty much only citizens group actually fighting for student loan justice. Every other initiative out there claiming to be fighting for students, including loan cancellation programs, by the way, will simply never work, or they're being run by sham organizations, and they were basically scamming you in the first place. So this group is where it is at. We've been doing this for 15 years now. We've been featured top story on 60 Minutes, in the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, many other places. We are fighting for two things: the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. That lies at the core of the student loan injustice. And more recently, we're calling on the president to cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order. And that second one is the big deal, guys. The petition that we started at change.org, hopefully you signed it, change.org/cancel student loans. It's got over 717,000 signatures as we speak. We've gotten great media for it also, by the way. In the past 2 weeks, we've been featured on, you name it, Heavy.com, Yahoo News, Newsweek, Fox News, and like dozens of other local television stations, and a whole bunch of stuff I'm not even thinking about. So we've been doing really well on that. But folks, I'm here to tell you that we need to get 1 million signatures on this petition as soon as possible. It will, and by the way, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out right now. I would much rather have a give and take with y'all than be a talking head up here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I apologize. Jump onto our Facebook group if you want to catch these live streams when they're live. So facebook.com/groups/SLJ group. So yeah, folks, the petition is doing extraordinarily well. We need to get it up to 1 million signatures as soon as possible. This will launch us into the stratosphere of credibility with the media. You know, we've got a month left before the elections, and let's be honest, we've got maybe 2 weeks before people start actually mailing in their ballots en masse. So time is of the essence. I would love to get 1 million signatures on the petition by this week's end, so by Sunday. Now, this is easily doable. If everybody who signed got even one person to sign, we would be at 1.5 million people. So if you haven't signed, obviously sign. If you have signed, get at least 2 to 3 people to sign the petition over the weekend. It's kind of a timing thing, folks. You know, if we have 1 million signatures by let's say Monday, then it's a brand new news cycle. All the stuff that's going on right now, we'll have abated a little bit, and you know, it makes a huge difference. But the earlier, the better. This is really starting to look good, folks. On the loan cancellation front, I'm very happy to report that leading Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer, have, what's a good word, stolen, usurped, let's say appropriated our idea. And that's a big deal, folks. They introduced a Senate resolution calling on the president to cancel all federal, or to cancel up to $50,000 in federal student loans by executive order. Nobody has been calling for this except for us, our group right here, since March, and really since last August. But the Democrats have gotten wise, to their great credit, and they have echoed our call. Now, I'm sorry to say, and we are a nonpartisan group, so we will say bad things about both parties. But the Democrats' plan basically sucks. They say cancel up to $50,000, which is just nonsense. That could mean anything. And they did it, and they threw a bunch of sort of divisive political rhetoric into the bill as well. So I think what their plan is to scare Trump and the Republicans into taking the opposite side of this issue and thus relinquishing the votes of the 44 million people in the country who are losing sleep over their student loans. So I don't know if you realize this, but there's 55 million people in the country who either have student loans or are co-signed on them. 80% of them, even before the pandemic, were never going to be able to repay their loans. That's 44 million people who are freaking out about their student loans. And by the way, most of those 44 million people, politically, they identify as being either independent or Republican. About 60% of all student loan borrowers are either independent or Republican. So, anyways, I'm very glad, humbled, and honored, I guess, that finally one of the mainstream parties has taken the torch from us. Not really super impressed with the way what they did with it, but whatever. It helps a lot. So now really the onus is on President Trump, assuming he gets better, and I think he will. I hope he will, as we all should, I guess. But maybe some of us don't. But bottom line is the onus is on President Trump to counter this. Now, also remember, Joe Biden has not yet earned our endorsement. And we will be pushing Biden and Trump very hard this coming week. Joe Biden needs to pledge that as president on day one by executive order, he will at a minimum return bankruptcy protections to student loans. Elizabeth Warren did that. Joe Biden said he was adopting her agenda, so Joe Biden absolutely needs to do that. We need that kind of certainty for an endorsement for Joe Biden. But, honestly, folks, this is a failed lending system. So, really, the right thing to do at this point is to cancel the loans. Not up to $50,000, no nonsense. Cancel all federally owned student loans and return bankruptcy protections to the loans that cannot be directly canceled by the president. That is what we are fighting for. And really, guys, that's what has to happen. At this point, well, let me just talk a little bit about the bankruptcy thing first, okay? And that's the other thing that is making things very crowded these days, making our life very difficult with a lot of stuff to do. And it's all a good thing. It's all a very good problem to have. So, our bill, S1414 in the Senate, HR 2648, our House bill, HR 2648, which would return standard bankruptcy protections as they exist for all other loans to student loans. It's what we fought for the first 15 years of our existence. HR 2648, I'm very happy to report, has been passed out of the Judiciary Subcommittee and out of the full Judiciary Committee. So HR 2648 is going to get voted on by the House. And in all likelihood, it will pass. Now, up until very recently, it was kind of by and large a very partisan bill. In other words, 96% of the co-sponsors on it were Democrats. We did have one Republican co-sponsor, John Katko. But I'm very, very, very happy to report that a up-and-coming young Republican in Congress named Gaetz, Matt Gaetz, Gaetz. Young guy, seems like a nice guy. I've never met him, but he seems like a decent guy. He is fighting for us. He gave a very eloquent argument for HR 2648 in opposition to his own party, or at least at the time, I think nearly every other Republican on that committee. And he made a good argument. He didn't make the best argument, but he made a good argument, and hopefully we can work with him on that going down the road. But my point to you folks is that this bill got passed out of committee with increasing bipartisan support, which is a very big deal, because in the past the Republicans have always been complete and utter assholes against us, and that is just a fact. So finally, the Republicans are starting to open their eyes and see that this is indeed a conservative problem. It is a big government monstrosity. It's harming the economy. And in this time of economic stimulus, the least the Republicans can do is return bankruptcy protections to the loans. Honestly, guys, what I think is really going on, I think Congress is finally cluing into the fact that this entire lending system is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy as we speak. You know, almost nobody is paying on their student loans, certainly their federal student loans, right now. And if you think that many or possibly even any people are going to start repaying their student loans when this current loan suspension / moratorium, whatever you want to call it, is up, no, I don't think so. You know, I know people are starting to get letters from the servicers saying, hey, get ready to start paying your loans again. October 1st or January 1st or whatever date they're throwing out. Well, apparently they didn't get the memo. This lending system is failed, guys. It's done. It's toast. Put a fork in it. It is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy, and it's only a matter of time. Now, this could have a good outcome, could have a bad outcome. It could have a good outcome, a bad outcome, a middle outcome. The bad outcome is Congress doesn't return bankruptcy to the loans. The president does not cancel the loans. The collection companies start really flexing their muscle against us. People could be sued en masse. People could be losing their properties. Federal marshals could literally be knocking down people's doors, hauling them off in arrest on account of their defaulted student loans. And that has actually already begun to happen, believe it or not. I know it sounds incredible, but indeed it is starting to happen. That would be the bad outcome. We don't want that outcome, folks. We don't want this country to be turned into some sort of an indentured servitude / police state where people are literally running from the police as a result of their student loans. No. We're a better country than that. Shouldn't come to that. I guess now the middle outcome is, okay, so Congress returns bankruptcy protections to student loans. And that's a very real possibility at this point. We still have to make it through the Senate, and that requires Lindsey Graham having a little bit of a change of heart and making it happen. But as I said, I think Congress, and they should be very scared that people are going to start throwing their student loan papers in the garbage en masse. And frankly, I don't think there's anything they can do about that at this point. I think it's an inevitability. But whatever. Congress is always slow to the stick. They're always reacting, not acting. They could very well return bankruptcy protections, which is what we've been fighting for 15 years, and that certainly would not be a bad thing. But, you know, folks, we have to take 2 steps back and ask ourselves at this point, is it too late to return bankruptcy to these loans? I think it is. I mean, they could return bankruptcy protections to these loans tomorrow, and I hope they do. Don't get me wrong. We're fighting very hard to make that happen. But I think the end result is going to be that 10, 15, 20 million, or maybe even more million of people are going to wind up filing for bankruptcy. So, I mean, is that really a good thing on balance? Does it really make sense to bankrupt 20 plus million of our best and brightest for the sin of going to college? Is that going to stimulate the economy? Is that going to restore confidence in the population that the government isn't out to get them? I don't think so. I don't think it'll stimulate the economy very much. I don't think it'll really win too many votes. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. We'll take it. But folks, the reality is that this is a failed lending system. And the country needs fiscal stimulus right now. We just got done lending small businesses in this country $500 billion in loans that don't have to be paid back. Now, of the $1.5 trillion federal student loan portfolio, my best guess is that over $1 trillion of that is nonsense. It's interest and penalties and fees and recapitalized principal and interest. It's fiat. It's over and above original unpaid principal. So if we can throw $500 billion at small business owners, can we not throw about the same amount at student loan borrowers, who, by the way, are being hurt far worse, I think, far more directly than small business owners are? You know, there's a lot of small businesses out there that are doing great. Gas stations, McDonald's, franchises, etc. They don't need those PPP loans. So my point is, if we can throw $500 billion in loans that don't need to be paid back to small businesses, we can absolutely cancel every nickel of federal student loans. You know, those PPP loans all added to the national debt. These student loans would add nothing to the national debt when canceled. And by the way, the government has been making a massive profit on these loans for the past 10 years. It would not surprise me at all if the amount of actual unpaid principal on the government's books is actually zero. It may very well be. It could be that these loans could be canceled tomorrow, and on balance, the taxpayer, which is actually the Department of Education and its crony contractors, would be breaking even. And you know, in 1965, President Lyndon Baines Johnson, when he signed the Higher Education Act, he himself said, "The loans that we make under this shall be free of interest." So, dudes, this is by far and away the best solution of those three outcomes. Obviously, we don't want that first outcome. That second outcome, it's just not that much to get excited about. Obviously, we'll take it, but, you know, these loans are toast. And please, get that through your mind. These loans are a national threat, by the way. And to those of you who would feel maybe a little guilty about your loans going away, don't. Don't feel bad for a minute. Do you think the 43,000 millionaires and billionaires who got a $1.6 million stimulus on average during this pandemic, do you think they feel bad about that windfall for them? No, they don't feel bad. They're popping the champagne corks. Do you think those small business owners feel bad about not repaying their PPP loans? No, they don't feel bad at all. And neither should you. You know, this lending scam uses our own good faith against us. That is why it has managed, and the absence of consumer protections, is why it has been allowed to grow to such monstrous, nationally threatening proportions. These loans have got to be canceled. They've got to be. And if you feel bad about your student loans being canceled, if you're doing well, if you're making good money, if you can afford to pay them, well, take the money that you would have paid into your student loans and do something genuinely good with that money. Maybe put a kid through college with no loans. I don't know. I leave that up to you. But the worst thing that, in my opinion, anybody can be doing, certainly when this payment suspension is up, is paying on their student loans. Not only is that unwise, it is unpatriotic. And I'm very serious about that. Do not feed this beast. By paying into this lending system, you are only ensuring that this hyperinflationary, weaponized lending scam will be perpetrated, not only upon us, but upon tens or hundreds of millions of decent people to follow in our footsteps. This lending system has got to go away. We've got to come up with a far more fair, rational lending system that doesn't allow the colleges to charge the sun and the moon, which is what they're doing right now today. Prices have got to become rational. Now, it is outside the scope of this group to get too concerned about what the future higher education funding model should look like. But I know that it doesn't look like what we have now. Frankly, I don't think the government has any business being in the lending business. I think the government, I think, and you may have your own opinions, I think the government should go back to doing what it used to do way back in the day, which is funding colleges directly. And maybe even putting some price controls on as a condition for federal funding. Something, but whatever. That's a very fascinating conversation. But we don't care. What we know is that these loans have got to be canceled. And at a minimum, that means returning bankruptcy protections to these loans. But really, it's probably too late for bankruptcy. These loans have got to be canceled. Mark my words. This lending system is done. It's failed. It's toast. Put a fork in it. So, yeah, folks, we're asking, as I said, everybody watching this to do one very simple thing this weekend. And that is to get one person to sign our petition. You can see the link to it either, I think, below or over there. Make that happen. We can only succeed when everybody on this group tries. We've got a huge muscle to flex, folks. Although we don't have those 44 million distressed borrowers in our group yet. We should. We don't. We've got 750, probably 775,000 people on our group, on our petition, on our other platforms. So we can really make a huge dent. So please, if you do nothing else this weekend for student loan justice, at least get one other person to sign the petition. But really, guys, you should be doing way more than that because this is not a wait, watch, and worry proposition. This is not a hope it happens battle. This is a make it happen struggle. And people who have been with our group for any length of time, over a year, let's say, they know full well that when you do nothing, nothing gets done. On any given day, there might be 500, 600 people in this group actually doing stuff. That needs to go up to 100% between now and the election. We have got a very rare and special window of opportunity here, folks. Let us not blow it. Yes? Make this a half-time job or even a full-time job if you've got time on your hands these days. Put some very serious effort into helping us spread the word about this petition, number one. Number two, do everything we can to get the Senate, not the House, the Senate, to pass S-1414 so that we can get a bill signed into law before the election. This stuff all sort of, the one begets the other. It's kind of a virtuous cycle. If we work on both bankruptcy and canceling student loans at the same time, the latter helps the former, and maybe even vice versa. So your efforts are not wasted, whichever thing you may be working on. As I said, Lindsey Graham becomes the very important guy here. He's an asshole, in my opinion. He has been against student loan borrowers for many years, and that's just a fact. But he will respond to pressure. And he's already shown that he's very happy to go back on his word. So let's make him abandon his previous positions on bankruptcy and student loans. And let's get him as head of the Senate Judiciary Committee to get S-1414 passed. The Republicans really need to do this, folks. It's not like we're asking them to go out of their way for us. This is something that should appeal to their survival instinct. 44 million distressed student loan borrowers is enough to decide every election, the presidential election, and every down ballot House or Senate race. And right now, the Republicans are absolutely clearly the bad guys on this. H.R. 2648 is coming up for a vote in the House, guys, and that's going to be very well publicized. This hasn't happened in the 15 years that we've been doing this. And if that bill passes only along party lines, in other words, if nearly every Republican in the House votes against that bill, except for, say, John Katko and Matt Gaetz, the Republicans are going to look very bad in the eyes of the 44 million voters who are freaking out about their student loans. 44 million voters is enough nearly to elect a president outright. So use that. We certainly are, but you need to help. Okay, folks, well, I think I've given you enough marching orders. I've given you 2 easy things to do. Well, yeah, I've given you 2 things to do, one of them which is easy. 1, get 1 person to sign the petition. And really, come on, guys, can you not do better than that? Can you not get 5 people to sign? But at least get 1. And number 2, push Lindsey Graham. Find his Facebook page. Hit him up on Twitter. Tell him in the strongest of terms, the most compelling of terms, the most compelling words that you can smith. Tell him to push S1414. 2 things, guys, not hard. These are your loans. This is your problem. When we hang together, we will solve this problem. Because Lord knows, if we don't, we're going to all hang separately. Let's not let that happen. Get everyone you know to join this group. Let's make this happen. Good luck. Godspeed. Have a great weekend. Check back here frequently because stuff is happening fast. And God bless.